Ever feel like you're seeing the same world as everyone else, but experiencing it totally differently?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today,
Oh, interesting.
using an allegory that connects faith and perception. It's pretty thought-provoking. You ready to unpack this?
Absolutely. I think it's fascinating how this allegory uses a story to explore how belief can have such a powerful impact on how we experience the world.
Right. And we've got some great source material for this deep dive,
Oh, excellent.
including a verse in the Quran,
Yeah?
2.3, which talks about those who believe in the unseen.
Oh, powerful verse. And it really sets the stage for this whole allegory, doesn't it?
It really does. It introduces this idea that faith, belief can shape our perception of reality, even things we can't see or touch.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the allegory follows two travelers, both on a journey looking for pleasure and trade.
Mm.
But they end up on very different paths. One leads to misfortune, the other to fortune. The traveler who chooses the path of misfortune, he finds himself in a land that to him seems utterly awful.
Right.
Everywhere he looks, he sees suffering, he sees injustice, just interprets everything in a negative light.
And the source material uses such vivid imagery to describe his experience, doesn't it?
It
Because
does.
he sees the poor being oppressed.
Right.
He describes the land as feeling like a general mourning house. Even the sounds of drums and flutes, they sound mournful to him. It's like every single detail is just filtered through this lens of despair.
He really is. It's like he's wearing a pair of glasses that just distort everything he sees. And he can't see the beauty, he can't see the potential, he just sees the negative.
Right, and that's exactly the point of the allegory, isn't it?
It is.
That his internal state, it's actually shaping his perception. The source material describes it as misguidance and ill fortune.
Yeah.
But it's turning this potentially beautiful country into something just dreadful in his eyes.
Right. But now the traveler on the fortunate path, he witnesses this.
Yeah.
Right. He sees his companion's distress. And he tries to steer him towards a different way of seeing things.
He does. He actually challenges his perception, encouraging him to cleanse his heart to see the truth of their surroundings.
Wow.
Arguing that it's actually a just and merciful king's domain, full of order and perfection.
So they have a conversation about this.
They do, yeah.
Okay.
And it's this really powerful exchange. It highlights the contrast in their viewpoints. Imagine for a second, you are the unfortunate traveler, just completely weighed down with all this negativity, and I'll be the one trying to guide you toward a more positive perspective.
Okay, all right. This land is a complete nightmare. Everywhere I look, there's nothing but suffering and injustice. It's like the whole world is drowning in sorrow.
My friend, I understand your despair, but you've lost your way. It's the darkness in your heart that's clouding your vision. You're mistaking laughter for weeping, liberation for destruction.
But how can you even say that? Look around, it's so bleak and hopeless.
I see a land brimming with potential, a just and merciful king's domain. Cleanse your heart of this negativity, and you too will see the truth. You'll see the order, the beauty, the inherent goodness that surrounds us.
Well, that dialogue really brings the tension between those two perceptions to life.
It does, doesn't it?
But what does this mean for us, the listeners? Are we supposed to just accept that second traveler's perspective as the right one?
That's a great question, and I think it gets right to the heart of the allegory's message. It's not about blindly accepting one viewpoint over the other, is it?
Right.
It's about recognizing that our internal state, our own beliefs and biases, it can so strongly influence how we interpret the world around us.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yeah.
It's suggesting that we all have the potential to misinterpret what we experience based on, our own kind of baggage we're carrying around.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And that's really where the Islamic perspective comes in. Because the source material identifies that first traveler as representing either an unbeliever or a heedless transgressor. In other words, someone who is not living in accordance with Islamic principles.
So are they suggesting that without the framework of faith, the world just seems more chaotic and purposeless, like you're missing this crucial piece of the puzzle to make sense of it all?
Right, and the text even goes further, explaining that without faith, even life's duties, they might seem meaningless. The beauty of creation, it might sound like just cries of despair.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty stark contrast to the perspective of that second traveler.
It is, and that contrast is emphasized even more through this powerful imagery of seeds. The source material describes how belief contains the seed of the tuba tree of paradise, while unbelief holds the seed of the zakum tree of hell.
Right.
Now, for those who might not be familiar, the tuba tree is this symbol of ultimate reward and bliss in paradise.
Yes, and in contrast, the zakum tree is described as this horrifying tree in hell, bearing fruit that's repulsive and agonizing to consume.
So it's like saying that embracing faith can lead to this flourishing, fulfilling life,
Yeah.
while rejecting faith can lead to a life of suffering and spiritual emptiness.
Yeah.
But it's not just about these abstract concepts, right?
No.
Like paradise and hell. The source material hints at how this actually plays out in our daily lives, doesn't it?
It does. It emphasizes how Islam, as both a religion and a way of life, it can offer this sense of safety and security by providing a framework for understanding and navigating the world.
Interesting.
And that framework, it helps us avoid those negative thought patterns that lead to misinterpreting our experiences.
And that ties back to that concluding phrase, right?
Yeah.
All praise be to Allah for the religion of Islam and the perfection of faith. It's like the source material is saying that embracing faith can lead to a more complete and fulfilling understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. And by aligning ourselves with a higher purpose as defined by Islamic principles,
Right.
we can find a sense of peace and clarity that might otherwise elude us. It's about recognizing that there's this inherent order and beauty in the world, even when things feel chaotic or difficult.
But what does that actually look like? How does, and I'm quoting here, serving Allah actually lead to a more fulfilling life?
Yeah.
Does it mean following a bunch of strict rules and restrictions? Or is there something more to it?
That's a fantastic question, and one that leads us into the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore how those Islamic principles can actually be applied to everyday life, and how those principles can lead to a sense of freedom and fulfillment even amidst life's challenges.
I'm really intrigued to unpack that further, but before we move on, I just want to pause for a sec and invite you, the listener, to consider your own experiences.
Okay.
Think about a time when you might have misinterpreted a situation because of your own, internal state, your fears, your anxieties, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what would it have looked like to approach that situation with a cleansed heart, with a more open and receptive mindset? Could shifting your perspective, maybe by drawing on the principles of faith, lead to a more positive and fulfilling outcome? It's a question worth pondering, isn't it?
It really is.